Shalom Aleichem. Welcome to Breslov Web Seminar, Parshat Bo. The weekly Torah reading this week is Parshat Bo. It starts off, Hashem says to Moshe, come to Paro. Come to Paro. Not go to Paro, come to Paro. What's that all about? Right? He's supposed to go to him. In Hebrew, there are 5 phonetic families of the Hebrew alphabet. There is the guttural, Aleph, Ayin, Ches, and Hey. There's the labial, the lips, which are Beis, Vav, Mem, Pei. And then there's the teeth, Zayin, Samach, Shin, Reish, Tzadik. There's the palate, Gimel, Yud, Chof, Kuf, and the tongue, which is Daled, Lamed, Tes, Nun, Tuf. It's divided into the 5 phonetic families in order to be able to, times when you interchange letters, you could take letters and interchange them. You'll find it in Rashi throughout Chumash. Rashi speaks about certain letters. Sometimes it's an ayin, but we use the aleph. Sometimes it's a zayin, but you use the samach and a shin, or so on. Anyway, what happened here by Bo El Paro, this was already the 8th plague that Hashem sent upon the Egyptians. And as the 8th plague, it was getting more severe every time. The Barad, the hail at the end of last week's Parsha, right, destroyed the country practically. Right, there were no trees left, there were no vegetation, everything was destroyed. So now Hashem is calling for locusts to come. What are the locusts going to eat? Everything was destroyed the last plague, right? What Hashem did was true. He brought the locusts in, and they devoured anything that may have survived the plague of hail. All this was now completely devoured. There was left no food, nothing, no wheat and barley and any crops that were grown. Everything was destroyed by the locusts. But Moshe was told to come to Paro, Bo El Paro. Why? The letter Aleph could be interchanged with an ayin, and the letter Beis could be interchanged with a pei. Paro is spelled pei, reish, ayin, hey. The pei and the ayin of Paro were exchanged with the aleph and the beis. The pei with the beis, the ayin with the aleph, so that Paro himself became a locust. Right? The ayin pei, in Hebrew it means off, flew away. The pei ayin of Paro flew away, disappeared, and instead Paro was given an aleph and a beis, and he became an arbe, he became a locust. And that was the severity. Now, okay, but what does it have to do with us? I mean, like, okay, so Paro became an arbe. Okay, that was one of his more severe punishments. But what it is that leaders, when they become leaders, make their own laws. They say, this is what I want and this is what I'm going to do. I mean, we just had last week, a few days ago, the inauguration of Donald Trump as the President of the United States. And he has executive orders, and it's very nice, and he wants to build this, and he wants to destroy different things, and things that Obama did, who's also an aleph and a beis, he should also, whatever. We're not going to go into that. But the things that happened, right, a leader could become a locust too. A leader could be a leader. He could be a fine leader. He could be a just leader. He could be an honest leader. Not everything's going to work out. You're a human being. But the leaders of the nations have a tendency, I rule, I'm in charge. They forget that Hashem is in charge. And before you turn around, a Paro, at that time, Paro was the mightiest person on the planet. He was in charge of the Egyptian civilization, which was then the leading civilization on earth. And he was turned into a locust. And locust is not a very popular animal. It's not a popular character. And people don't really care for it too much. And that's what happens when people go off the path of trying to do what's right and trying to control everything under. They cause destruction and devastation in their plan. Moshe Rabbeinu was told, come to Paro. Come to him and try and get him to see what's right. Of course, Paro didn't, and the rest is history. The plague of locusts plagued Egypt, and afterwards was the plague of darkness, and afterwards was the plague of the smiting of the firstborn. So we went from the plague of locusts, we go into the plague of darkness, and that's really a continuation of the locusts. The locusts, when they came, they just covered the land of Egypt, made it dark anyway. They blotted out the sun, and they just took to eating and devouring everything that was there. But for those who thought there may be hope afterwards, Hashem shows that the plague that follows is darkness. Darkness, the Gemara says, Rashi brings it, was divided into two different parts. The first 3 days of the plague of darkness were darkness, an absence of any light. An absence of any light. No light, it's dark, right? Go out into the sea in the middle of the night, there's no light, there's no shine, nothing. Dark. The last 3 days, the final 3 days of the plague of darkness, darkness took on an actual form. Not that it was just an absence of light, as we know it, but it was an actual form that surrounded a person, enveloped a person, and that made the person unable to stand or sit or breathe. Yet Hashem kept life in them. And that's what many of us end up going through. Many of us go through darkness. Many of us go through an absence of light. We don't see what's happening around us. But if we continue with our obstinance, if we continue not following Hashem and not doing the right thing, then the darkness becomes absolute. It becomes a form, a shape. It envelopes me to the point where I really can't do anything else other than what the darkness tells me. This is the plague of darkness. Something that we have to realize that we still can overcome, right? Hashem says that in Isaiah 60, right? Kumi oirich kivo oirich, Kumi oiri kivo oirich, come light and shine, and the honor of Hashem will be upon you. Just like darkness covers the earth, right? It will cover all the nations too, right? But upon you, Israel, Hashem will shine. Hashem, the light will be there. And the light is always there. The light is always there for us. Rav Nosson always says this time and again in the Likutei Halachos, the light of Hashem is with us. Rabbi Nachman speaks about it. The light of Hashem is always with us because God is emes, truth. Hashem Elokeichem emes. We say it at the end of Shema every day. There's also a verse that says, Hashem ori v'yishi. Hashem is my light and my salvation. When I am able to concentrate on the light, on Hashem, then I can have the light come to me, even if I'm in the middle of darkness. Ki eshev b'choshech Hashem Orli. Even when I sit in the darkness, Hashem is light to me. So that the plague of darkness, the plague of locusts, leaders, false leaders, terrible leaders, tyrannical leaders, all this can be overcome. Darkness can be overcome. That's the lesson of the Parsha. And of course, Paro didn't listen. Paro was not meant to listen. And Hashem hardened his heart, because when you're obstinate, so then whatever the Gemara says, whichever path a person wants to walk upon, that's the path he's led upon. Paro wanted his own ideas, and he wanted to rule, and he wanted to show that he's the boss and whatnot. So Hashem led him on that path, and he didn't let him realize how terrible his actions are for himself and for his people. So Hashem took him out with the smiting of the firstborn. And in those days, the fact that a person always wanted a bechor, a firstborn, there were certain powers attributed to a firstborn, the birthright and so on. And there were certain things that everyone kept. Paro was a bechor, was a firstborn. He had children who were firstborn to their mothers and whatnot. But you're not in charge. Hashem is in charge, right? And if you think there's special power with this or with that, realize that it doesn't work that way. Understand that it does not work that way. Understand that Hashem runs the world, and Hashem is going to do it the way He wants. We have now a situation here in America. You have a situation in Israel. You have a new president. It looks like a dawning of a new era for Israel, with a friend in the White House. That's what it looks like. But we don't know. We really don't know. Nobody knows until you put to the test. And when you put to the test, like Paro, right, most people don't come out right. There have been cases in history, and in Yitzhak Hashem, things will work out good. But we have to understand that there are plagues, and there are things that Hashem does that we don't understand, right? We have to pray to Hashem, we have to daven to Hashem, and that's what the rest of the Parsha talks about. The rest of the Parsha tells us the laws of Pesach. You're not allowed to have chametz, you have to have matzah, and it tells us how the Jews went and they prepared the Paschal lamb, and how Hashem smote the Egyptian firstborn, and how the Jews were eventually released from Egypt. And that's when we became a nation. The last redemption, this one which we're waiting for now, everybody will be redeemed. We're not going to leave behind anyone. They're all going to come out, which is why it's taking so long. We all have to get together and believe in the redemption, believe that Hashem is going to take us out, and we all have to work hard for it. And Be'ezah Hashem, it'll come. Be'ezah Hashem, God willing, we will all be able to feel that redemption, and see that redemption, and live through it, and celebrate with Hashem, with the Torah, and with coming of Mashiach and the building of the Beis HaMikdash speedily in our time. Amen.